This is the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Ever wish you could re-listen to your favorite interview or segment? Do you enjoy hearing older shows for the first time in years? Then the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less is just what you need. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Greetings, one and all. John Solberg here, your host for the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Happy to tell you today's show is brought to you by The Butcher Shop, purveyors of highly sought-after 100% Australian non-crossbred Wyvara 9 Plus briskets that are always handpicked just for you. The Butcher Shop has been retailing the finest meats for more than 15 years. Every week they're shipping out competition quality meats to many of the biggest teams in the competition scene across the nation. Simply put, teams who use The Butcher Shop win, and they win often. You may not be a competitor, but you still deserve the finer cuts. Great news, The Butcher Shop is shipping some of the finest prime, dry-aged, Australian Wagyu, and Japanese Wagyu steaks people just like you and me who aspire to be the kings and queens of the backyard. The Butcher Shop always has Berkshire, Compart Duroc, Allegiance Duroc, and Prairie Fresh all-natural pork in stock, and again, always hand-picked just for you. Let's review. The best competition briskets, check. The best pork selection, check. Giving you better overall options to cook at home, check. So give The Butcher Shop a call today. 850-458-8782. That's 850-458-8782. You mentioned the BBQ Central Show. You're going to get 10% off your entire order each and every time you call. You can also go check them out at Facebook, facebook.com/The Butcher Shop. Shop is spelled S-H-O-P-P-E. The Butcher Shop, home of the 100% Australian non-crossbred Wyvara 9 Plus briskets. And let's take a jump back to 2009 and talk a little rib roundtable action.
West. And now, here's the host of the outrageously successful BBQ Central podcast show, who will now be acting as the moderator of the BBQ Roundtable, Greg Rempe.
Thank you, Jim Morgan, and welcome to the BBQ Roundtable, a monthly show where a select panel of guests talk about a specific barbecue topic. Tonight, we are talking about what some would consider to be the holy grail of barbecue, that being pork ribs. Everybody loves to master a great rib. Tonight, again, focusing on the backyard for the backyard chef. We have three great panelists lined up to take part in this. They are all experienced barbecue chefs in their own right, and in no particular order. We have on the line tonight Kurt McAdams from Waynesville, Ohio, Steve Johnson from Greenville, North Carolina, and Russ Cornett from Somerville, South Carolina. Gentlemen, welcome to the BBQ Central Show. How are you tonight?
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Thanks. Great. I always love every time I ask that question. I'm like, well, all three of them are just going to jump right in. So I gotta tighten that up for the next show. Anyway, guys, certainly appreciate you making time to come on and do the barbecue roundtable. We're going to be talking about pork ribs tonight. This is a live version, so we'll see how time flies. But before we actually get into the whole preparation and the cooking and the post-production elements, why don't we go ahead and see what everybody's cooking on. We'll start with Kurt, we'll go to Steve, and then we'll end with Russ. Go ahead, Kurt.
Well, I cook on a couple different things. I'm using a Bubba Keg cooker right now, as well as an extra large big green egg. And for competition, we use a homemade box smoker that holds about 400 pounds of meat if we wanted to.
Steve?
I cook on a couple also. I cook, my main pit is a backwood smoker, the professional model. I also have a smaller model that I play around with, and then I have a whole pig cooker.
Russ?
I've got a couple Lever Smoky Mountains I use backyard, and I've got a homemade propane tank converted to a pit. I use competition.
All right, so a bunch of different styles of cookers, and that always makes for a great backyard roundtable discussion. So we're talking again about ribs tonight, pork ribs, and we'll see if, as time allows, if we can get into anything a little bit more exotic. But let's obviously start from the beginning. Preparation. Is your preference baby backs or spares? If spares, do you do whole spares or do you do St. Louis style ribs? And you know what? Actually, let me ask a question before that. When you're looking at ribs, regardless of the actual cut, what are you looking for? And we'll start with Russ.
Greg, look at usually when I buy ribs, I buy them in a 3-down packs. I get these from Sam's. So I'll look at the back side and make sure there's no shiners or bones showing, and make sure we got just a pretty looking rib, even distribution, meat, fat across the slab, and just look what you can look for. Of course, you're going to miss the middle rib, and you get what you get there, I guess. But as you give us spares too.
Kurt?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Sorry.
I look for shiners too, which, as was said, that's when the bones show through the front of the ribs, not the back. And I, even for backyard, I kind of look for presentation a little bit, where I like the bones to be as straight up and down instead of at an angle as they can be. And I generally go with spare ribs myself, although I won't turn down a baby back rib.
And we'll end with Steve.
I also look for shiners. I look for more of a symmetrical type shape of my ribs. I want them to be, when they come down, I go with a spare rib as well, and I cut them down to the St. Louis cuts. And so I want to make sure that I don't have as much waste. I look to make sure that I've got some decent flap meat there, and that there's not a lot of fat hanging around the bones and everything.
So it's safe to say that the majority or the consensus here tonight is more of a St. Louis or a spare rib versus a baby back.
Yeah, I
for
cut
me,
mine down to St. Louis also.
Okay. Now, when you flip it over, and we were talking about shiners on top, which means, bone is showing through the skin, but when you flip it over, does anybody take the membrane off? Or perhaps a better question would be, does anybody not take the membrane off? And we'll start with Steve.
The Roundtable's still one of the most downvoted series of shows in the history of the Barbecue Central show. You want to check out the rest of this one? The rest of this roundtable, head over to the bbqcentralshow.com. There's a link in today's show notes. It's going to take you to the complete episode. I promise you're going to enjoy it. And I don't always not take off membrane. Sometimes I do take off membrane. Depends on the circumstances. Depends on what I'm doing. Baby back's always off. Unless I'm cooking 96 of them. And until next time on the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less, I'm your host, John Solberg. I look forward to talking to you again soon.